Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Lucore Automotive. Today we're going to do some Volvo stuff. My 1993 940 turbo Volvo Wagon. I bought this car about a year and a half ago, and it was a $2,500 car. That was really like a $1,500 car, but because of the price of used cars, it's more expensive than it should have been. And it's not perfect. Let's be honest, it's definitely not perfect. My power seat does go forward and back, it doesn't recline. The windows don't really work the way they're supposed to. There's an enormous dent here where a skateboarder slid into it. All the dash lights are on, the fuel gauge doesn't work, the temperature gauge, whatever. Lots of problems. But it physically drove pretty much okay, up until very recently, in which case my overdrive has disappeared out of this car. So now when I'm driving down the road at about 70 miles an hour, I'm tacking about 4,000 RPMs. Not good for the engine, not good for my fuel economy. So today we're gonna fix that. At least we're gonna try to. Overdrive issues on all sorts of 240s, 740s, 940s, all that stuff for a long time. It's a Volvo thing. If you're interested, stay tuned. I hope I can fix this. Okay, so as I said in the intro, we now have an issue with my overdrive. On these Volvos, you have this little button here, which is your overdrive off button. Idea being that when you're towing something or have a heavy load in the vehicle, you usually want to stay out of overdrive. So you have an option of being able to turn that off with that button. Now, when your overdrive is off, see that little orange arrow right there? That signifies overdrive is off. Let's start the car up. And as you can see, overdrive is off. If we go ahead and hit this little button here, overdrive is still off. As I said, ignore all of the other lights that are on. That's fine. But the one that we're curious about is this guy here. No matter what I do to this button, it's not there. We'll take it for a quick little drive to verify that it doesn't have an overdrive. And then we'll discuss how we check this and how we hopefully fix this. All right, so first gear. Second gear. All right, so we are not shifting. Right now we should be kicking into overdrive, not running 3,500 RPMs at 55 miles an hour. So again, overdrive off light is still off. No matter what, if I press this little button down here, it doesn't do anything. That's it. There you go. Pretty simple to verify that one. Overdrive not functioning. Overdrive was functioning and functioning perfectly fine up until a couple of days ago, and then it just decided to no longer function. So let's get back to the shop, troubleshoot this real quick and see what we can see. Unfortunately, this is a pretty common thing in a lot of automatic Volvos. 2 Series, 7 Series, 9 Series, they all run the same situation. This particular car is a 1993 940 Volvo Turbo. It does have the AW71 transmission, but this kind of goes across the board for almost all Volvos. So there are usually 3 things that goes wrong with this situation. One, that button on the shifter stops working. Whether it's stuck in, stuck out, whatever the case may be, it just stops communicating. That button is number 1 problem. Number 2 problem is the relay, which I'm going to show you here in just a moment. Number 3 problem is the solenoid that's actually on the transmission. So we're going to go ahead and say that the button is probably working, but we're going to check this as well. So in order to be able to do this, you actually need to be able to access the fuse panel and relay panel, which is right underneath here. It's actually behind the ashtray. So in order to get to that, key in, move this thing into first, pull the key back out, and then this whole piece just comes out. No big deal. Now that gives you access to here. This is your fuse panel and your relay block that are back here. So there's a first line of relays that are these 3 here. Then there's 2 empty holes that are here. One here, one here. One there, one there. And then this tall guy right here in the back, that is your Overdrive Relay, which is going to be really hard to film, but that guy. So what you can do is you can start your car up. Make sure you keep your foot on the brake here, because this is going to get a little shady. But car started, we're back in first gear. What we're going to do is you can put your finger on this relay and toggle this button, and you should be able to feel that relay toggling off and on. It's a little, you might hear it, but typically speaking, if you put your finger on it, you can feel it. In my case, it is going to, so my relay is fine, my wire or my button on my shifter is fine. The only other possible issue you could have is a communication problem between the relay and the solenoid, which is also a reasonably common problem, but we're gonna hope that's not the problem, because I hate tracking down wiring issues. So the next question is gonna be the solenoid actually on the transmission. In order to fix that, or at least show you what I'm gonna be doing, I gotta get this thing up in the air, so I'm gonna put it on a rack real quick, get underneath it, and we'll show you what we're doing here. Alrighty, so what we're after is this guy here. Pretty simple. It's actually just got a 12mm head bolt on that, 12mm head bolt on that, and then that cable goes up and around through this little clippy guy here, and then it clips in right there. Pretty simple installation, pretty simple removal. As long as your car is not warm. If it is warm, you're going to burn the hell out of yourself to get this done, because that transmission casing is very hot and there's no easy way to do it. But short little 12mm wrench, knock those bolts off, no big deal. We'll get that out. Just give me a second. While we're under here, let's talk about, we got a wobbly shaft. Gonna need to replace that too. Good news is I've got a plan. And yes, I am that guy in the shop or your friend that within 2 minutes of working on a car ends up disgusting. Yes, that's me. Could be because all my cars are old and gross and disgusting, or it could just be me. I don't know. So anyway, 2 little bolts, no big deal. This little guy just pops right out of there. And then you discover that some other idiot's already been in here. And screwed with this wiring. So it's no longer a little pinch connection. It's... Give me a second. If you're like me and have absolutely no luck with these kinds of things, this is a one-wire connection. Yeah, that's it, just one wire. Unfortunately, somebody has decided to run it through an eyelet when they reran this wiring. That does not have an opening. See that? Doesn't open. It's just solid metal. So they ran the wiring through there, and the other end of this is here and goes up there, so there's no way to disconnect this. So the answer is we're gonna have to cut this wire to get this thing out of here. Stupid. A lot of repairing cars, especially old cars, is Trying to figure out what exactly the other guy did in undoing that. Stupid. Ooh. Also didn't get the O-ring out of this. That would have been a problem. There's an O-ring that sits in this guy here that seals that on the transmission. That would have been a problem. Alright, let's get this, some side cuts, cut this wire off. So this is the Overdrive shift solenoid. Cool. Now, here's the kick in the pants. This part is not available through Volvo. You can get these from third-party vendors. Also, IPD does sell what essentially is a block-off plate for one of these. And what it does is it allows you to have essentially constant overdrive. It doesn't allow you to shut overdrive off, which for most people is not a big deal. It just deactivates the ability to toggle overdrive off and on. And it's basically just this flange with no solenoid on it. So you don't have this little piece inside that actuates. So for most people, that's probably your best bet as far as repair goes. For those of you who are interested in doing it this way, the nice thing for me is I happen to have another one of these cars that has a functional overdrive that I can steal something out of. The problem is that transmission is hosed, so I'm in luck. Ta-da! So this is the one that just came out of that car. It's definitely been boogered up. Applicationed, from what I heard on one of our YouTube comments. That's the proper way of saying that, not redneck engineered. And this is the one that came out of my other 940 Volvo wagon. It's much cleaner and has factory wiring on it. And it doesn't have to be cut apart in order to put back together again. See, it's got that little piece there. So I can just put this back together, and that's going to fix my problem. Hopefully. This is genuinely exactly what it's like to work on old cars. So here's the old piece. Here's the pinch connector that normally is up there. That wire is run into this and it pinches down on this. Boom, Bob's your uncle. That's how it works. Well, ow. Somebody has previously replaced all of the guts inside of this. Probably won't be able to see that. I love it. I love it. Since somebody previously redneck engineered this for us, application this for us, we're gonna have to do the same thing, because my connection, this thing here, there's no way to fix this. So it is what it is. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a spade connection. So I'm gonna cut this, I'm gonna cut that, we'll put a spade on one side and a receiver on the other side. It's not ideal, but that's what we're gonna have to do. But if you were doing this the correct way and somebody hasn't previously already been in there rednecking around, this is pretty simple. You just reconnect the two, you run the wire back through, 2 bolts back in, bing, bang, boom, you're ready to rock and roll. So I'm gonna guess a portion of my problem was also the fact that this wiring was done by a 4th grader with a bunch of electrical tape and a little bit of wire. But at least you'll see how to do the actual replacement in case yours isn't a wiring issue, it's actually the solenoid, which, who knows? The solenoid looks a lot cleaner than the other one did. Alright, be right back. Alright, Our new old one is reinstalled. Everything's nice and tight. The O-ring that's on this is made into a flat surface on this, so you do need to make sure you have all the grit and grime and junk, especially in this case. This one's really gross. When you pull all this apart, you're gonna end up with stuff that's on that mating surface. Make sure you clear that all off. But rerun the wiring, everything's back up to where it is. It's just a spade connector at the moment, so I'm gonna cover that. I'll wrap that and coat that so that I can protect it as best I possibly can. But before I do any of that, I wanna make sure I actually fix my problem. And to be honest here, is this an issue of the wiring was horrible, or is this an issue of the solenoid was horrible? I don't honestly know the answer to that, and it could have been both. If the wiring is bad and it kept on shorting out and bouncing the signal to that solenoid, it could have shorted out that solenoid itself. For the last couple of days, I've essentially had absolutely no overdrive, or it would kick in just for like a second or 2 seconds or 5 seconds, and then it would be out of overdrive. So whether or not it was initially a wiring issue or it was a solenoid issue, whatever the case may be, this is how you do it either way. That wiring that we're looking at that's shoddy as heck, again, is wiring that you're going to want to look at if you have problems with yours. That's definitely a place to look. So gonna let this thing down, start it up, and hopefully we fixed our issue, and then we can go for a test drive, make sure we got overdrive again, and then I can make a triumphant closing, or put it back on the rack and figure out what else is wrong. Let's let her down. All right, let's give this thing a run down the road, see if we got our fix. One shift, two shift. Give me another gear, please. Ooh-ah! There we go, buddy. We fixed her. So, it's not a terribly difficult repair. It's a very common, unfortunately, very common repair in the Volvo world. And this obviously goes for a lot of different Volvos. Many of them that run the AW70 or AW71, they all have this exact same failure problem, where either that relay or that switch that's mounted on the transmission will go bad, or both, or the wiring. In my case, it was kind of a combination of a number of things. The wiring, whoever was down there originally did a terrible job at fixing the wiring. The relay was bad. I think the relay being stuck on actually fried that switch. So, you know, it was a combination of things, but anyway you look at it, the issue is resolved. Let's roll up my windows because my long crazy hair is going all over the place. So yeah, we're back in business. I have all my gears once again in the Volvo, so I can enjoy driving this car. Now, an optional thing, if you don't want to fix this the right way, there is another option. IPD sells one of these little guys. These are block-off plates. So it sits in exactly the same location as the switch would on the transmission. Holds down by those two exact same bolts, and it has it comes with an O-ring in it, and you can literally just take that switch off, mount this guy in that same place, that way, mount that guy in that exact same place, bolt it down, and Bob's your uncle. There you go. Now that does alleviate your ability to kick the car out of overdrive. So my little overdrive off button down here on the transmission doesn't do anything anymore. But 98% of the time, you're not towing with one of these things, and there's no reason you would ever need to kick it out of overdrive. So it is a viable repair. Those switches are getting hard to find. The relays can be kind of hard to find, and I think these things from IPD are like 15 bucks, something like that. They're just a simple little piece of powder-coated metal with a O-ring on them. So, you know, if you're in the mood to do a repair on yours, if you have an issue where your overdrive is no longer working, I would probably go that route, to be honest with you. I wouldn't screw around with everything that I just did. I would go ahead and get that IPD block-off plate and call it a day. In my case, yay, I have overdrive. I have my overdrive off button. Yippee freaking skippy, I could do that. Does it matter? No. But hey, you know what? There you go. That's the repair. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this. I know it's a little bit different than the normal hot rod stuff that we normally do, but it's automotive repair, and that's what you guys are here for, hopefully. So we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for being here. Like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. And we'll see you on the next one. Absolutely no idea what that'll be, but probably back to more American muscle cars. So we'll see you guys. Take care.